Oh, we'll start with you.
All right. Coach, always great to get a first conference win, I should say, especially on the road. How did you feel about your team's performance?
Well, it's one of those, we kind of grinded it out a little bit. I thought, again, the defense, it was good to not give up, explosive plays early in the game, which we've done, earlier in the season. So, when we forced them to a field goal there early, and then we settled in again and continued to play great in the second and third and the fourth quarter. So I thought, that you got to give them credit. They were, throwing and completing the football and on that first drive, and then it just took us a little bit to get unwound on offense. But obviously the positives. Running the football again for 200 plus yards continues to be a strength of our football team, and we get better every week in the run game. So want to know, and doing it on the road, it's hard. And conference play, everyone, like we talked about, they elevate their play. And because now you're playing for the games, they mean something. You're playing for a championship, and thought our kids responded well and handled it. They just showed a resiliency throughout the course of the year that no matter what the situation, they just keep playing the next play.
Once again this week, we saw two quarterbacks behind center. Looking ahead to the rest of the season, do you imagine there's ever going to be a point where it's going to be one quarterback the rest of the way, or is it, again, just going to be feeding that high?
I think that's up to the two quarterbacks. At some point, someone has to say, you know what, I'm going to take the leadership of this football team and run it. And so, again, we're just taking it. It's almost like the same thing at running back. 1 week it's Rovon, 1 week it's Jeremiah, and next week it's Rovon. So I really like what we're building. We're building depth, and man, it's always great to have two quarterbacks that can come in and show that they have the capability of moving the offense down the field and scoring points and being a leader. We just need to develop consistency on that side of the football. And still to this day, we haven't played a complete game really on either side of the ball, in my opinion. But, I think probably was closer Saturday night on defense to playing a complete game than what we were on offense. But it's going to come. We're going to keep getting better. Our kids got a great attitude, and man, anytime you can just grind out wins like that, man, it builds a grit and a toughness that's going to help us down the road.
Go ahead, Ray.
Why has Dobbins had the type of games that he has had compared to the slow starts that he had in the first of the season?
Well, I just think that one, it begins up front. When we had a lot of moving pieces up front. Now we're kind of settling into the five guys that play the majority of the snaps with our offensive line. And Ryan's just done an incredible job building a unit out of that. And it takes time. We've had a couple of different people playing center. We had guys in and out at tackle. We've moved guys, around at guards. So I think what you've seen the last couple of weeks, you're starting to see, even really since the Missouri game, you're starting to see that group kind of form a cohesiveness, and it's learning how to set up blocks and how to make cuts off of the blocks and the type of blocks that we're trying to execute. And I think Jeremiah just is getting more comfortable with who's on the field and who's in front of him. And it's like anything. There's got to be a synchronization to make it all work. And I think they're just getting more comfortable. Both of our running backs are getting more comfortable with what they're seeing, and they're still both fairly young guys. So they're still learning it themselves.
What do you think that you like most about this defense and the way that they're playing? I
think that I think they're just playing together as a unit. We don't have any superstars on defense. Per se, we got a bunch of really good players, and they're playing hard. They're playing tough. They're playing aggressive. I really like the improvement that we've made in our tackling over the course from fall camp all the way back to spring football, where we are as a tackling. We're doing a nice job being aggressive. And, I think what gets measured gets results, and those are things that we put a lot of emphasis on. If we can continue to just make people grind it out against us and not give up explosive plays, I think you can see we're tough to score on at times.
and a pretty tough SFA team coming up, someone that's picked to win, the conference. Feels like you got to have something set in stone this week, or at least an idea of how you're going to go about this game. So what is that looking like?
Yeah, I think sometimes coaches, we tend to focus too much on things that we can't control. I don't spend as much time focusing on the opponent as maybe some coaches. I focus on us and what we do and how we execute and how we can get better, and that's not going to change this week. I mean, yes, it's a conference opponent, but it's not considered a conference game due to the change in our schedule this season, so it's kind of got a weird feel in that regard. But see, I view that as a positive, because to me it's just another week for us to focus really hard on what we're doing, make sure that we continue to refine, coach with a critical eye, look at and evaluate, hey, what are we doing well, what are we doing not so well, and let's look at it, let's get it changed, and continue to build this thing 1 week at a time. And I think our kids have taken that approach, and I think that's why you're seeing the performance on Saturday that you see.
Yeah, so the importance of Saturday, you guys get your first win, open up conference with a win. How does that dictate the tone for the rest of the season for you guys?
Well, you can always build off winning. From our mindset, to our work ethic. I think when kids can see that, what we're doing is paying off, the time that they're putting in, the preparation that they're putting in, their practice habits, I think they see and they have success on game day, it just continues to build, and I think it just propels you to the next week. I don't think we look toward the end of the season. We just look at it one day at a time, 1 week at a time, and because really all you can do this week is go 1-0. And so if we do that in every rep of practice, every day, we make it count in our film study and our preparation, and we spend a lot of time pouring into our players in that regard, that look, you got to be able to control what you can control. You can't control your opponent. You don't know how they're going to come out and try to attack you, so why spend time worrying about it? Get prepared, study them, look at their tendencies, look at their schemes, and we just got to say, okay, within what we do, how are we going to attack them?
Yeah, after having a little bit of a rough start of the season, Blair Cepeda came in really crucial for you guys. Hit the 2 field goals in the first half to keep you all in the game a little bit. So what are your thoughts on him and his performance and how he's progressed?
Yeah, he's been impressive since the day I got here. He's missed, a couple of field goals this season, but I've not lost any confidence in him whatsoever. And if you are going to miss left, I just, when you leave it out to the right, that's the ones I'd like going, you're trying to aim it, you're trying to push it through, just kick the football and try to send it through the uprights. And when you slightly hooks to the left, I can live with that. He's a tremendous player, tremendous kicker. Obviously respected. He is voted special teams captain by his peers. So we have nothing but confidence in him, because we've seen what he can do all the way through the course of fall camp and spring football. And like I said, he was very, very consistent through that time period. And he's gonna get it all ironed out, and we'll start making some of those, hopefully.
And we've already talked about a little bit how it's kind of been like the second half you guys have been really strong, and then specifically Saturday you guys held them 20-0. So what really shift did you see from that first half to the second half, specifically in this game?
I think pretty much the same thing that we've seen every game all year long. Our kids just have a confidence in what we're doing and a belief in each other that carry. We're outscoring our opponents 62-3 in the fourth quarter. And I think it speaks to a focus and a mental intensity to be able to concentrate throughout the course of the game and just stay within the framework of the scheme and don't try to play outside of that. Because sometimes with all the right intentions, you can play outside the system and things will break down. So I think our kids have just really pulled together when things, whether it's a touchdown pass or a field goal to start the game, there's no panic. They just pull together, they stay together. And we've talked about that so much, becoming like-minded, think like, and if we can continue to do that, then it should continue to lead to success.
Thanks, Coach.
Any idea on what players will be starting in the backfield this weekend?
Well, I mean, I would assume since Banks and Dobbins both, that's 2 games in a row that they've both combined for over 200 yards of offense rushing. So it'll be Banks and Dobbins, and then we'll continue to battle it out. But I mean, I really like the way Maverick came in at quarterback the other night and kind of sparked us a little bit. Led a couple of scoring drives, and so I'm very proud of him. And him and Ethan both. I mean, to be able to do that. I mean, quarterback is a very unique position. I mean, everyone can name the quarterback, defensive back or something, or maybe a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman, but everybody knows who the quarterback is. So I've been very proud of both those guys, the way they've came in, not starting the game, but come in and spark our offense. So again, I just think that makes you better down the road, and you're building depth, and I'm very proud of what both those young men, but it just speaks to the type of people they are, and to be able to prepare, even though I may not be the starter, I still prepare myself when my number's called, I come in and answer the call.
Looking back to this past weekend, have you had any chance to go back and watch the TV broadcast of the game?
I have not. I never watched it.
I have a short little clip that I wanted you to hear,
Okay.
and I'll ask you a question
Okay.
shortly after that. But this was after Dobbins scored his 3rd touchdown.
Southern Utah, right up the middle. It's going to be a touchdown. Jeremiah Dobbins from 10 yards out. And
When I listen to that, I hear broadcasters who are certainly unpleased with the way their team is playing. Does it bring you any joy to bring such anguish to your opponent?
I don't know if joy is the right word, but I like, it is very, it's gratifying to see the work that you see your players put in, and to see young men have success. That's why you do this for, So like, you could see that we kind of imposed our will on them there toward the end of the game. And I knew the way we were running the ball early in the game, I said, if we keep doing this, this is really going to show up when in the 4th quarter. And again, it speaks to, you could just tell those last couple of drives we were running the ball just, right at them. And there's nothing more that can demoralize a team than running the football against them. I mean, if people are throwing the ball on you, then you can adapt and change coverages and things like that. But when people are just lining up and running the ball right at you, it's hard to do something about that. And it wears on you. That's the one thing about college football, any level of football, high school included, NFL, the game is still won and lost up front. So I think that's what you hear in his voice a little bit right there, just that, maybe dejected, and realizing that one was probably the final nail in the coffin.